I have officially tested over 50 top-rated lip balms. I don't even know if this does the number of lip balms I have tried justice. Truly an obscene amount, and I hate so many of the bestsellers. My hand just went limp in this container. I think the official number is over 54 lip balms, but I'm scared to say for sure because I do have a history of saying the wrong number of products in my showdowns and then the entire video ends up being off count. So we're just gonna play it safe and stick with over 50. If you're wondering how we got here, how on earth does somebody end up testing 54 lip balms? Let me tell you. One day I was using my Laneige lip balm thinking about how much I love it and the fact that I don't have to dig my fingers into a container to use it, and I was like, I wonder if there are any other lip balms out there that are in a squeezy tube like this that are even better than Laneige. 54 lip balms later, if you know me, you know that I have a sick obsession with lip products and I am so picky about them. If a lip balm is too thin, not smooth enough, fades too quickly, or not nourishing enough, then I don't want it. What I do want is a soft, smooth lip balm that is super conditioning. And I do usually prefer something thicker and more occlusive, but I also like to have lighter weight options in my collection for when I'm not in the mood for something super thick. So with all of that in mind, we are going to embark on a 50+ squeezy tube lip balm showdown. I will be sharing everything that you need to know about these lip balms, including standout ingredients, how they feel on the lips, what they taste like, what they look like, and of course, how well they actually work. And I'm going to review these lip balms from the thinnest to the thickest. And not necessarily just how thick they look coming out of the tube, because a lot of these do look really thick coming out of the tube, but how they actually feel once they're applied and coated on the lips. So let's dive into all of these lip balms so that you can figure out which ones I absolutely love and which ones just did not make the cut. Let's do this. We are going to start off with the thinnest lip balms that disturbed me the most, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. And the first of that unfortunate category is the Freck Rich Nourishing Plant and Peptide Lip Balm. Standout ingredients include castor seed oil, jojoba seed oil, palmate oil tripeptide 38, prickly pear oil, and rice bran extract. This is fragrance-free, but it has this really heavy oil taste, which is something that I personally cannot stand in a lip product. It really grosses me out. And it has a super thin, melty texture that is grainy. It's like the balm itself is so slippy and melty that it melts down into nothing, and you're left with pieces of sand on your lips that don't dissolve. The finish is what I would consider to be sheeny. It's not something that is super shiny or glossy, but it's also not completely flat, which a couple of these strangely are. And in my opinion, compared to all of the other lip balms I've tried, because obviously I've tried a lot, this is just not moisturizing, softening, or conditioning at all. For most of these lip balms, I'll be speaking to the lasting power and overall results that I got, with the exception of a few, like this one right here, that just really grossed me out so much that I had to remove them. So because of the feel and the taste, I took this one off. It just was gross. And honestly, this is one of those products that makes me wonder how nobody from the company spoke up about this. Did nobody try this in its final form? How did no one address the fact that this is atrocious? Sorry, it's a no from me.
It's definitely a no from me, though.
Next up on the extra thin disturbing list, I'm like, Emily, cue Disturbia, is the Benton Honest Lip Balm. Standout ingredients include sunflower seed oil, shea butter, argan oil, camellia oil, macadamia seed oil, and jojoba seed oil. This one is also fragrance-free, but unlike Freck, there's no off-putting smell or taste. It really doesn't seem to have any at all. And while this is a little bit thicker and less melty than Freck, it's essentially the same kind of experience in that it's a very thin, grainy texture that overall is just really unpleasant. It also has a sheeny finish, and like Freck, it really does nothing for my lips except honestly make them feel dry. So again, I just had to remove this right away because I really disliked it that much. Moving right along, we have the Burt's Bees Rescue Lip Relief. Standout ingredients include mango butter, castor oil, cocoa seed butter, sunflower seed oil, shea butter, coconut oil, cram seed oil, jojoba seed oil, safflower seed oil, and soybean oil. This one is not fragrance-free. It does have a fragrance ingredient, and I would say it has a little bit of a honey-like taste, which all sounds good and fun, but let me tell you, it was not. If cottage cheese was a lip balm, it would be this. This literally has chunky granules in it. Like, it was the most upsetting application experience I've ever had. And yes, I'm being dramatic, but it was so off-putting. Thankfully, the bigger granules do melt down so that cottage cheese texture doesn't linger, but what does linger is the same kind of thing as with Freck and Benton, just a really thin texture that feels grainy. Which is really weird because when you squeeze this out of the tube, it looks like it's going to be a lot thicker than it ends up actually feeling, and that is why I made that call out in the beginning. A lot of these lip balms look to be pretty thick, and even when you put them on at first, it's like, oh yeah, this is going to feel nice, but very quickly that texture changes and ends up feeling way thinner than you would think, which was my exact experience with this. This one also had a sheeny finish, and I also had to remove this right away, but it wasn't just because of the texture, it was actually because it started to burn my lips. And it wasn't like a lip plumper effect, because that is not supposed to happen with this. It was like dry and tight, and it hurt. Like, I definitely had some sort of allergic reaction. I think it's because of the beeswax. That did happen to me with other lip balms that have beeswax at the top of the label. Not all of them, weirdly, but a lot of them. So that's my hunch, because when I looked into it further, I guess that is a common contact allergen. Still in the I don't like you one bit category, we have the Sacheu, not sure how to pronounce, Sweet Balm Hydrating Lip. God, hello. Sweet Balm Hydrating Lip Mask. Buttery, flaky, crisp.
Baked in a buttery, crispy flake.
Standout ingredients include castor oil, shea butter, and jojoba seed oil. I did not see any added fragrance on the label, but I'm not sure how that's possible because this has like a sweet, sugary scent. Not in a gross way, because you know I can be grossed out by that. It's nice. It's just like subtly sweet. I did write a little note down that this is so hard to squeeze out, and it is. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna break my double jointed thumb. So hard to squeeze out of the tube. So that is a point against it, but I mean, it's fine because I hate it anyway. This is the exact same kind of application as with Burt's Bees, where you think you're gonna have a thicker, nicer balm, but it actually feels bumpy and then melts down to just feel really thin and grainy. I would say that this one is slightly sheeny. It's really not doing any favors for my lips, which again is fine because I hated it. So this was another that I had to remove. I promise, I kept most of these on. It's just that like all the ones in the beginning, like I said, gross. Which nicely explains how I feel about this next lip balm. This is the Inkey List Tripeptide Plumping Lip Balm. Standout ingredients include castor seed oil, shea butter, mango seed butter, babassu oil, squalane, chia seed oil, sunflower seed oil, hyaluronic acid, 2 peptides, and glucosamine. I don't know. This is fragrance-free, but has the most disgusting chemical taste ever. Like, to me, it's worse than the oil taste. It's just so gross. Even if I loved the way that this felt and looked, I would not be able to leave this on my lips because of how it tastes. But to make matters even worse, it's also grainy. The texture is very thin and very slippery, and while it does feel a little bit more conditioning than some of the other options we've talked about so far, it still is nothing special at all. I'd maybe give it like a 1/4 of an extra point for being a little bit shinier in finish, but still. No. And I know that the point of this one in particular is to be something that plumps over time because of the hyaluronic acid and peptides, but they tell you to apply this 3 times a day to get that effect. And I'm sorry, 3 times a day with that gross chemical smell and not loving the way that it feels, no thank you. Next, we have the One Days You Sika Ming Lip Balm. Shea butter is really the only ingredient highlight here, and this is another that does not have any fragrance ingredients listed on the label. Like, I checked Stylevana and Yes Style, and I didn't see fragrance or essential oils anywhere. However, it smells very minty and also like a little earthy. This has a thin gel texture that at first was a little bit more promising because I wasn't feeling like that grossness that I did with the others at first, but within about 10 minutes after applying, it started to just feel a little bit sandy and not super smooth on my lips. And this is one that looks shiny at first, but that very quickly fades into just more of like a sheeny finish. In terms of both lasting power and the overall results I got with this, I would just say it's below average. It faded quickly, and it's actually one that ended up leaving my lips feeling more dry once it faded. So overall thoughts, nah. Next is the Frudia Coconut Honey Lip Salve. Standout ingredients include coconut water, shea butter, chahalos, allantoin, adenosine, honey extract, grapeseed oil, apricot kernel oil, ceramide NP, Centella asiatica, pomegranate seed oil, and mango seed oil. This does have added fragrance and essential oils, and I would say that it has like a tropical fruit, why did I say that so weird? A tropical fruit-like smell and taste, but unfortunately not in a good way. Like, that's typically something I would really enjoy, but it's really really artificial and it's very intense. Really weird application experience with this lip balm. The texture is definitely quite unique. It's thin, it's slippy, it's creamy, and it feels very wet. For me, it's something that immediately started to tingle and burn, which again, I suspect is because of the added beeswax, and then it just kind of like disappeared immediately. It had no real shine or sheen. I would say it's just kind of flat looking on the lips, and that is how I feel about it overall. I mean, maybe I feel worse than flat because like, what? Below average lasting power, obviously below average results, just not one that I can personally recommend. Another that I just am like, about is the Hempz Whipped Vanilla Lip Balm. Oh, by the way, we have exited the thin disturbing category. I would say that that ended with the Inkey List lip balm, but we are still in the thin category because again, we're going from thinnest to thickest. We're just not in like the gross lip balm category anymore. So again, back to Hempz. Standout ingredients include coconut oil, shea butter, sunflower seed oil, cannabis sativa seed oil, muru seed butter, grapeseed oil, and panthenol. This has oh my god. Cut. This has added fragrance and I was really excited about it because Hempz has great smelling body care and like whipped vanilla is right up my alley, but I do not get that from this at all. This smells like fruity plastic to me. This has a very thin, slippery balm texture that isn't particularly cushy or conditioning or smooth. It's honestly like a thin layer of nothing to me. No offense, Hempz. It has a sheeny, kind of unassuming finish, like nothing special about how it looks on my lips, and in terms of lasting power and results, I would say below average here as well. Fades quickly and is actually one that like feels dry while it's on my lips. I'm like, this is doing nothing. So overall, cannot recommend this either. Next is the Farmstay Real Coconut Essential Lip Balm. Ingredient highlights are coconut palm oil, olive oil, shea butter, macadamia seed oil, sweet almond oil, petrolatum, sunflower seed oil, grapeseed oil, jojoba seed oil, and aloe. This is fragrance free, but it has a very, very artificial coconut smell and taste. It's almost plasticky. It's just not something I love. It does feel nice and smooth at first, but that balmy texture quickly thins out to just feel very thin and a little dry. It has a slightly sheeny finish and is below average in terms of both lasting power and overall results. Definitely a pass for me. Next is the Miguhara Hydrating Cica Lip Balm. Ingredient highlights are squalane, Centella asiatica, and jojoba oil. This one is fragrance free and doesn't really have any smell or taste. This one does start off gritty, but it fully melts down and doesn't stay feeling gritty. So that's why I did not include this in that like first category of lip balms that I hate, because while yes, it's not super pleasant, it's not as offensive as those. This is thicker than the rest of the balms that we've reviewed so far, but in saying that, it still feels pretty thin. It does have a little bit of a creamy feel that softens my lips, but overall, I don't feel like it's particularly hydrating or conditioning. There's basically no shine at all with this one. Once it dries down, it almost looks like a mattifying primer or something. I'm like, what is going on here? And again, this is just another that is below average to me. It fades really quickly and leaves me feeling like I need more lip balm immediately. Moving right along, we have a relatively newer launch from The Ordinary. Maybe it came out like a few months ago now. It's their first lip balm, which is called the Squalane and Amino Acids Lip Balm. Like the name suggests, standout ingredients include squalane, a bunch of amino acids, and a Dancenia digitata seed oil. This is fragrance free and it doesn't really have a smell, but it does have a little bit of a sandy taste. The texture of this is very thin and very slippy. It almost feels a little bit damp. Like again, another one of those where you're like, is this wet? And for me, this one is not occlusive at all. It's a little bit sheeny, but again, just kind of unassuming in overall finish on the lips, which to be fair, could be something that's a positive for you. Obviously, I know not everybody wants a really wet, juicy, drippy looking lip balm. That is something that I love, but I can totally understand that sometimes you just want something that is kind of unassuming. So that's not like a negative overall. It's just not my personal favorite thing. I would say that this one is average to below average for lasting power. Like it really doesn't last super long, but it definitely is hydrating. I've put this on my lips when I had some flakes and it did help with that. So if you're looking for a thinner lip balm that feels really hydrating, like almost kind of like a serum would, then you might really love this. For me personally, it's not occlusive or long lasting enough for me to want to keep this in my collection. It's the type of thing where I would want to apply it and then layer something thicker on top of it. And there's not really a point in me doing that when I have so many other lip balms that like check all of my boxes in one lip balm. So certainly not a bad lip balm, just not something that I love. Last in our thinner category is the Dr. Jart Ceramidin Lip Hair Lip Balm. Lip hair, I'm guessing like repair, not lip hair. That's my guess. Ingredient highlights are ceramide NP and sea buckthorn oil, and this one is fragrance-free with no real taste or smell. This has a very thin, slippy, melty texture that feels fine enough at first, but the longer I wear it, the more I notice that it doesn't feel completely smooth, like there's almost something a little bit gritty about it. It's really subtle, so I don't know it's something a lot of people would notice, but I did think that was weird, so I wanted to call it out. This does have a shinier finish than all of the other balms we've talked about so far, but I wouldn't say it's something that looks super plumping or juicy or smoothing on my lips at all, just a bit of a shinier finish. For me, the lasting power was below average. It faded pretty quickly and just didn't really do anything special for my lips. It didn't feel super conditioning. I just wasn't very impressed. All right, we're going to move into the next category, which is getting thicker, but still on the thinner side. So if you are somebody that does not like the feel of a really thick lip balm, then you might find your favorite in this category right here. First up is the Mongdies lip treatment. Standout ingredients include jojoba seed oil, mango butter, meadow foam oil, ceramide NP, Centella asiatica, and beta-glucan. This is fragrance-free, but it does have essential oils, and I would say it has a soft vanilla scent. Oh, it smells really nice and doesn't really taste like anything on my lips. It smells really, really good. So you get like a little bit of that taste, but not much. This has a very slippy, melty texture that I actually love the feel of while I'm applying it, but it thins out really quickly, like pretty much right after I'm done applying it, and it just feels too thin for me. The finish of this one is so weird because it looks like it's going to be super glossy at first, but then that goes away and it starts to just look flatter and flatter in finish as it settles. So I would say the overall finish is like slightly sheeny. Lasting power here, I would say, is average. It's not something that fades super fast, but it's also not super long lasting. And that's also what I would say about my results and the conditioning effect that I get with this. Like, it's average. It's not bad, but it's also not great. It's better than a lot of the other lip balms we've talked about so far, like better than most. But there are so many other lip balms that I think are much better than this, so it's another pass for me. Next up is the One Thing Moisturizing Lip Essence. Standout ingredients include petrolatum, jojoba seed oil, olive oil, and argan oil. It's fragrance-free, not essential oil-free. It does have citrus fruit oil, but there's really no smell or taste at all. Nothing. This has a jelly balm texture that at first feels like it will be perfectly thick, but for me does just thin out really quickly and end up feeling too thin. The finish of this one is shiny to glossy, so definitely the shiniest or glossiest option so far, but overall, again, it's one that I would just say is average in terms of lasting power and the overall results I get. It just doesn't compete with my favorites, but if you love a lip balm that's on the thinner side, then you might really enjoy this. Next is the Flower Nose Hydrating Repair Lip Mask. Ingredient highlights include sunflower seed oil, shea butter, argan oil, camellia oil, macadamia seed oil, olive oil, jojoba seed oil, and meadow foam seed oil. It's fragrance-free and there's no real smell or taste for me. This has a gel texture that is soft and slippy. It's not so thin like some of the others, but definitely not occlusive at all. So I would say overall, it's pretty comparable to the lip balm we just talked about, the One Thing Moisturizing Lip Essence. It does have a shinier finish, but it's not overly wet or glossy looking, and again, doesn't do anything in terms of smoothing or plumping for me. And I would rate this average for both lasting power and overall results. It's another that is not bad, but nothing I would consider to be great. Next up is the Avène Sickle Fate Restorative Lip Balm. Ingredient highlights are the Avène Thermal Spring Water, castor seed oil, and a trademarked ingredient called, I think, C+- or C+, Restore Probiotic, so a probiotic ingredient. This is fragrance-free and doesn't really have any smell, but it does have a slightly sandy taste, kind of like the Ordinary. And I feel like this is actually like the slightly thicker, creamier version of the Ordinary because it also has that kind of wet feel to it. However, this has more of a cream texture where the Ordinary was more of a gel. While it's not super occlusive, it does feel super soft on my lips, and it's one that I would say has a sheeny finish. I would give this one an average to good rating. It definitely doesn't fade super quickly, but it also doesn't last as long as my favorites. And it does moisturize my lips, but not as impressively as the ones that I absolutely love. Apparently they changed the formula of this. I was reading through the comments and noticed a lot of 1-star reviews saying the new one sucks, bring back the old one. So you'll have to let us know in the comments below if this is something that you used to use and love that you now think has changed, because apparently the old one used to be amazing and this new one's not as good. Next is the Remedy for Dry Lips All-in-One Lip Treatment Permanent, which is actually Dr. Shaw's brand. Standout ingredients include ceramide, squalane, peptides, petrolatum, shea butter, avocado oil, and jojoba seed oil. It's fragrance-free, and I don't get any smell or taste with this. When I was trying to think of how to describe this, what came to mind is like a thinner, almost drier version of Vaseline. It's another that feels like it's going to be really thick at first, but gets quite thin and doesn't end up being occlusive enough for me personally. And while it definitely has that nourishing ability for dryness, it just doesn't have that really comfortable, cushy feel that I love so much, which is interesting because like if I put it on the back of my hand, which yes, I have literally swatched all of these on the back of my hand because I'm crazy. I'm like, oh yes, this feels really soft and nourishing, but for whatever reason, the way that it settles on my lips just doesn't translate in that same way. And the finish of this one is what I would describe as being flat, like there's no real sheen or shine. It's definitely not wet and glossy looking, which again, could be a benefit for some of you. I would say that lasting power with this one is average and overall results is average to good. I feel like this one will be perfect for those of you that like a lip balm that doesn't really look or feel like you're wearing one while giving you that nourishing ability for dryness. Like if you don't want sheen or shine, if you don't want any thickness or tackiness and feel, then you definitely might love this. It's just kind of the exact opposite of what I like to go for in a lip balm. So if that is your kind of thing, then this will be for you. And that's why we do giant showdowns like this. Like just because I don't love this doesn't mean it's not going to be the perfect fit for somebody watching this video. So I know you're out there, it's just not me. Next, we have the Vaseline Lip Therapy Advanced Healing White Petrolatum Lip Protectant. From what I could see, this is literally just petrolatum, like 99.96% white petrolatum. So it's fragrance-free and doesn't have a smell, but for me, it does have a little bit of a plasticky aftertaste. Compared to Vaseline in a tub, this is the much thinner, lighter weight version of that. It feels really soft, but it is another that thins out and is just a little too thin for my personal preference. The finish is sheeny, and overall, I would rate it as good for both the lasting power and the results that I get. Like it definitely does a good job of conditioning. It lasts a good amount of time. It's a quality lip balm for sure. There are just others that I far prefer. Next up is the La Roche-Posay Cicaplast Barrier Repairing Lip Balm. Standout ingredients include La Roche-Posay's thermal spring water, shea butter, panthenol, and an ingredient called Revidrate. This is fragrance-free and doesn't have a smell or taste. I would describe this as being like a gel ointment hybrid. It definitely has more cush to it than the others we've reviewed so far, but obviously isn't super thick and cushy because we're still in the thinner category. Unfortunately though, this one is a little bit grainy for me. Some of it does melt, so it's not as bad as the others, but I can still feel it. It has like a tiny bit of sheen to it, but it's mostly flat. And I would say that this one is below average in terms of how it lasts. So while it definitely has some hydrating properties, and I would say is more just like probably average in terms of conditioning, it's one of those products where I would feel a need to layer another balm on top of it. But again, like why would I want to do that when I already have other great lip balms in my collection and I don't even love the way that this feels? I feel like I was more bummed about this one than a lot of the others because I love the La Roche-Posay Cicaplast products, like their balm, their gel are holy grails in my collection. So I had really high hopes for this and was really bummed when it turned out the way it did. All right, we have made it to our next category, which is not too thin and not too thick. So just right. And the first in that category is the Lip Leaf Enrichment Lip Gel. Standout ingredients include camellia oil, avocado oil, panthenol, hyaluronic acid, shea butter, ceramide NP, jojoba oil, and moringa oil. This has essential oils and a very minty smell and taste. Like when I got this on my tongue, it literally tasted like medicine. One of those. This has a gel texture that is definitely not as thin and slippy as a lot of these other ones, but still isn't something that I would consider to be a thick gel yet. And it does kind of like tingle and tighten on my lips a little, I'm assuming just because of the really minty essential oils. This has a glossier finish, so one that definitely looks juicier on my lips than others. And it has good lasting power, but because of that tightening sensation that I get from the mint, it is something that makes my lips feel a little bit dry once it's faded, which is a bummer because I feel like I would really like this for a thin gel option if it didn't have that effect and if it didn't have that really minty smell and taste. Next is from a brand that I genuinely don't understand how to pronounce, FMGT. When I first saw it, for some reason, I was thinking Figment, but it would then the M&G would be switched. So like I have no idea what's going on here. This is their lip care cream, and ingredient highlights are petrolatum and shea butter. This has added fragrance, and oh my god, it is the best of all time. It's like vanilla cake. Oh, it's so good. This has a melty jelly balm texture that's super smooth and super comfortable. It has a really nice juicy glossy finish. It's not one that looks so juicy that it's smoothing, but still I really like that glossier finish. And the lasting power is definitely good, as well as the overall results that I got. So I feel like if this one was thicker, I would be obsessed with it. It's definitely one that I feel like I'll continue to use until it's gone, but after that, I don't think I'll repurchase because there are others that I am even more obsessed with. Next is the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Lip Sleeping Mask. Ingredient highlights are petrolatum and hyaluronic acid, and while this is fragrance-free and doesn't really have a smell at all, it does have the tiniest plasticky aftertaste. This is the perfect example of the perfect in-between for me because, like I said in the beginning, I'm not always in the mood for something super thick, but I don't ever want something super thin. Like that just never seems to work out for me. So when I want a lighter weight option, a texture like this is so nice. It's super smooth and a little bit slippy, but not so slippy that it's like melting all over the place and melting off my lips like some of the other ones we talked about in the beginning. The finish is really glossy, the lasting power is good, and overall I would say it's just a really good experience, minus that plasticky aftertaste. So I still love this. Like this was something I talked about in I think my graveyard video last year. Every year I do a video where I talk about products that I used to use that I'm no longer using, and this was on that list, and I saw some comments like, oh, I normally agree with Abby, but I don't agree with that lip mask. I think it feels so amazing. I'm like, no, so do I. I love the way it feels. I just wish it didn't have that aftertaste. That's the only reason I stopped using it. Next is the Torridon Solid In Lip Essence. Ingredient highlights are jojoba seed oil, shea butter, macadamia oil, olive oil, Adansonea digitata seed oil, ceramides, hyaluronic acid, panthenol, and trehalose. It's fragrance-free and doesn't really have a smell or taste. And the texture is a little bit like a jelly balm. It's something that I would say is slippy and kind of a similar thickness to the Neutrogena Lip Sleeping Mask, but just with a little bit more of that jelly feel. The finish is shiny, so not overly wet or glossy looking, but definitely not flat and undimensional either. And overall, I would just give this a good rating for both lasting power and results. Definitely a solid option, something that I enjoy, but again, not my top favorite. Next is the Nudestix Nude Skin Hydropeptide Lip Butter. Standout ingredients are shea butter, avocado butter, and 2 peptides. This does have fragrance and essential oils and has a pretty strong vanilla mint fragrance. Ooh, that's minty. Upon initial application, I am obsessed with the texture of this. It's really smooth and melty and still has that like jelly balm quality, but it does have a tingling burning sensation and eventually goes a bit sticky for me. The finish is incredible. It is so wet and juicy looking, and so much so that it has like a plumping, smoothing effect. So I love that about it, but I would say it's average in terms of lasting power, and it's just not super conditioning for me because of the fact that I get that tingling and burning and then the stickiness as well. So like all of those things combined make this not the most conditioning option. If they got rid of the mint in this, which would get rid of that tingling, I would be obsessed with this, even though it does get a little bit sticky. That's not something that super bothers me unless it's like really, really sticky, which I wouldn't say that this is. Like that initial melty feel and the super glossy, plump look is just so good. So I would love to see that eventually, especially because they do have some tinted options that don't have that minty effect. So maybe someday, but for now, it's just not something I keep in my collection. Next is, oh my god, the oh so loved Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm. Ingredient highlights are shea butter, muro butter, and hyaluronic acid. And this is fragrance-free, but does have vanilla extract, and you definitely get that nice, subtle vanilla smell from it. This has a really nice, soft, balmy texture that I would say kind of reminds me of the Torridon Lip Essence, but is thicker. While it's not quite as wet and drippy looking as Nudestix, it still is very glossy and has a bit of that plumping effect. So I really like the finish, but unfortunately it's just not super long lasting. I would say it's just like average in that sense and good in terms of conditioning and overall results. It's definitely something that feels really nice to apply, does have a nourishing ability, but isn't as thick and cushy and conditioning as my favorites. Next up is one of the most confusing lip balms ever for me. This is the Tower 28 SOS Lip Softy. And the standout ingredients are shea butter, castor seed oil, jojoba seed oil, soybean soybean oil and coconut oil. This has added fragrance and it's a really nice, like soft and subtle vanilla. I also really love the texture at first. It's a gel cream that has a nice lighter weight cush to it, but this very quickly starts burning the crap out of my lips, like so much so that my lips start to go numb. And I have literally no idea why. Like I don't see anything in this that should cause that. So that was obviously a huge bummer for me. I would say the finish is on the glossier side, not something that looks super wet, doesn't have that plumpy effect, and does have a little bit of a milky color. So if you had a deeper complexion, I'm not sure how that would translate, if like eventually that would fade or if it kind of lingers. It's something that I did notice on me, but I'm obviously very pasty, so I can kind of get away with it. So unfortunately, I can't speak to lasting power or overall results with this because it burned so badly that I had to take it off. Like this was not something I could leave on. Even if I did, like I wouldn't be able to fairly rate it because I'm allergic to something in this. I just don't know what. Next up is the Saltair Lip Oil Balm. Ingredient highlights include petrolatum, shea butter, castor oil, murumuru butter, coconut oil, and rice bran extract. This does have added fragrance and it's described as having a coconut vanilla scent. I would go further than that to say it's like a toasted coconut vanilla with caramel and popcorn. It smells so good. The texture of this is like a slippy jelly balm, and when I first tried it, I remember being like, oh my god, it's perfect. It's thick. It smells so good. It tastes good. I love everything about it. But now that I've tried so many other lip balms, I wouldn't categorize it as being thick. I would say it's just a really nice in-between. It has a nice glossy finish, good lasting power, and overall feels really good on the lips. Like I really enjoy everything about this. This really would be a favorite for me when I wanted something that was more lightweight if it were not for the issue that I've had with the packaging. So far, it hasn't happened to this one, but it's happened to at least 2 of the other ones I tried, maybe even 3, where the top of this burst open and then it melted and leaked all over my stuff and it was just a complete mess. So that was a huge bummer. I did look up the reviews to make sure that it wasn't just like a fluke and I got a couple defective ones. That definitely seems to be a trend. It's happening to a lot of people who have purchased this, which seems to be really the only reason why it's poorly reviewed, because when you look outside of that, everything else about the product itself is very positive, which I would say mirrors my experience. So hopefully they're able to fix that, because otherwise, again, this is such a nice, more lightweight option. Next up is maybe one that should have actually been in my disgusting category, but I guess it's not as thin, so that's why. It is the ILIA Lip Wrap Reviving Balm. Ingredient highlights are castor seed oil, hyaluronic acid, shea butter, glasswort extract, and bisabolol. This has added fragrance and the most disgusting minty essential oil smell and taste ever. Like, ugh, smells like a bottle of essential oils. It is so nasty to me. And it has a slightly melty, slightly tacky gel texture that is very grainy. And I only know that it has a shiny finish because I put it back on for application footage, but after that, I took it right back off because I cannot deal with this. It grosses me out so much. Really, the only thing I like about this is the applicator. It's very cold. It's a nice touch, but not enough to fix the taste and the graininess. Next up is some people's beloved, not mine, Rhode Peptide Lip Treatment. Standout ingredients are shea butter, palmate oil tripeptide 1, kupachu butter, and babasu oil. This one has added fragrance. This is their, what are they calling this now? Vanilla fragrance. It was originally vanilla cake that they had launched as like a limited edition birthday thing, which I actually think is a better description for this one. Straight up vanilla cake. So good. But they have some other fragrances and a fragrance-free option as well. I would describe this as being a slightly melty gel balm that still is grainy. I have been complaining about this being grainy for at least 2 years now. Like I remember being back in Chicago and this going grainy on me and me being like, dang, because I love the feel, I love the smell. When what was interesting is that a lot of them would be good at first, but then go grainy over time. But this one I just bought for this video because I knew like I wanted to include it, but I probably was gonna have this issue. And this one was grainy immediately. Like the first time I put it on, it was grainy. I just don't understand how they haven't corrected that. Like there's no way that they have not been made aware of the problem. I know that they have because I actually emailed them. This would have been like over a year ago when I had purchased the tinted versions of this and they were all grainy. So I emailed them like, what's going on? They're like, oh, can you send like the order number? So we're trying to figure out batch codes and all this stuff. And of course, you know, I never heard back, which is fine. They don't need to answer to me, but I find it really weird that like there's definitely been all these complaints, there's been reviews, there's obviously been other people like me who have emailed customer service and been like, hey, my entire order is grainy, yet they still haven't fixed it years later. Sorry, I'm getting like extra annoyed because what are you doing? Like you have such a great, well-loved brand. Outside of that, it just doesn't make any sense to me, but okay. I also love the finish of this. It's very glossy, has more of that wet look. It definitely has a plumping, smoothing effect. It lasts for a good amount of time. It feels conditioning. It's just not worth it. I'm sorry. Why would you spend money on something that you know is not going to be smooth? And I remember the last video I made talking about this and like how disappointing that was. I saw some comments like, oh, if you just put it in the dryer, it melts. I'm like, what? If you are going to spend nearly $20 on a lip treatment, you shouldn't have to put it in the dryer for it to feel good. But maybe that's just me. Next up is the Indeed Laboratories Hydrolon, is that how you say that? Hydroluron Plus Volumizing Lip Treatment. Ingredient highlights include shea butter, mango seed butter, safflower seed oil, green tea extract, goji berry extract, hyaluronic acid, palm oil tripeptide 38, and glucosamine. This is fragrance-free and there is no real smell or taste. This has a gel balm texture that again is not too thin and not too thick, and it coats my lips really nicely. Like the way this sits, it's just really nice. The finish is not super shiny. I would say it's like sheeny to shiny. And overall, I would say it's great, both in terms of how long it lasts and how it makes my lips feel. Finally, an option that I can genuinely say I really love. It took us a while to get there. Through and through, I have zero complaints about this one. I will definitely be keeping it in my collection for those days when I want something that's lighter weight. Next is the Tula Skincare 24/7 Moisture Day and Night Peptide Lip Mask. Ingredient highlights are S6 Pro Complex, avocado oil, squalane, jojoba seed oil, pomegranate oil, hyaluronic acid, palm oil tripeptide 1, probiotic ferments, alpha-glucan oligosaccharide, and grapeseed oil. This is fragrance-free and does not really have a smell or taste. This has a gel texture that again is a really nice in-between, but a little bit thicker than something like Indeed Labs or any of the other in-betweens I've talked about so far. It's comfortable, it has some cush, and that cushy feel doesn't thin out super quickly like so many of the others. This has a glossy finish with a bit of that plumping, smoothing effect, which I love, and it's good in terms of lasting power and how conditioned it makes my lips feel, but not great. There's like something about this that is missing in terms of just that like extra conditioned effect. It's just not quite as good as some of my favorites, but it's one that I really love the feel of. This is where Laneige lands. I was so curious what my thoughts would be on this. Like once I tried all of these out, I genuinely thought it would still be my #1 favorite. Spoiler, it's not. I still love it. We'll get to that. 1 second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Standout ingredients are shea butter, muru seed butter, and tons of different fruit extracts. This does have fragrance, and this one right here is vanilla. There are obviously several other fragrances if vanilla is not your thing, but y'all know it's mine. I love. You know what this just like reminded me of? It's like a custardy vanilla. Yum. I still absolutely love the texture of this. It is so dreamy. It's like a melty, creamy balm. It just feels so luxurious. It has a really glossy finish, and while it doesn't look as smooth as something like Nudestix, which so far has been the best in that department, I would still say it has somewhat of a smoothing effect. Definitely not something that's super long lasting. Like there are absolutely others in this video that last longer and do a better job in that department. However, this makes my lips feel so conditioned. Not only do I love the way that it feels to apply, I really love how this makes my lips feel in terms of like nourishment. So while this is not my favorite lip balm anymore, it still is a lip balm that I love so much and am of course keeping in my collection. Like I'm not getting rid of it yet. We'll see in like, you know, a few months. Next up is Aquaphor Lip Repair. This contains castor seed oil, panthenol, shea butter, and bisabolol. It is fragrance free. I don't know why I decided to start calling it bisabolol in this video when I've never said that before, but to be fair, I've never known how to pronounce that. If any of you are chemistry nerds, let us know. And I say nerd with love, because I am a nerd too. This is fragrance free, but has a slightly sandy taste. No smell, it's just the taste. Not as apparent as the Ordinary. I would say that the Ordinary is like a noticeably sandy taste. This one's a lot subtler, but still there. You guys, I've had a giant spider sitting in the same spot on my wall for the past few days, and I just like keep catching it in my eyes and filming. Stay where you are, little guy. Don't even think about it. This is like a thicker version of the Ordinary. It has that slightly damp feel when you apply it, but it's definitely thicker and more occlusive than the Ordinary. If we were to compare this to just like regular Aquaphor, or again, Vaseline in a tub, it's definitely lighter weight and kind of like a gel ointment hybrid instead of just a straight up ointment. This has a sheeny finish and I would say is good both for lasting power and overall results. I definitely have lip balms that last longer, that make my lips feel more conditioned, definition than this one, but it's definitely solid. Like, I get why so many people love this. It is a really good lip balm. It's just not a top favorite for me. Next is the Kosas Plump and Juicy Plump and Juicy Collagen Lip Boost. This contains something called plump oleoactive, castor seed oil, shea butter, jojoba seed oil, hyaluronic acid, glucosamine, palmitoid oil tripeptide 1, and fatty acids. This has essential oils and to me smells like plastic with a hint of lemon. I saw a review of this where someone was like, oh my gosh, it smells like sweet pound cake. And I was like, what? Where? I wish. I would describe this compared to the rest as being thicker and creamier, but one that is grainy. Why'd I say that like that? Oh God.
One that is grainy.
I start to lose my mind with these long showdowns. And that grainy sandy feeling doesn't ever go away for me. It's not something that like melts down, so it's fine and you can put up with it. It's just not soft and smooth. It has a shiny finish, but doesn't really do anything in terms of plumping or smoothing. And overall, I would say is just average. Like it lasts an average amount of time, definitely isn't something that's long lasting, and average in terms of how it makes my lips feel. It's not very conditioning for me, not something that I'm like, oh my God, my lips feel great after I use this. Average. And when you mix that with lemon plastic or plastic lemon, definitely plastic lemon, and a grainy texture, I just don't think it's worth the purchase. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one. It is the Glossier Balm.com. Ingredient highlights are castor seed oil, lanolin, cupachu butter, and rice bran extract. This has fragrance and there are a bunch of different options for fragrance depending on what you are into. First, of course, I got birthday cake, which smells delicious, but no, it smells good. It's just like not as good as some of my other favorites. I didn't realize that this one is glittery and like you can feel the glitter granules in it. So I personally wouldn't recommend that. So I picked up coconut because I was like, I want to be fair. I want to get something that doesn't have glitter in it. And I just don't like this one. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't smell. I just accidentally squeezed all of that out. Like I can smell the coconut, but honestly, it's the same thing that I'm getting with the birthday cake one. Like there's just some other smell in there that I don't love. And I don't love the taste of it either. Like I'm wanting to say plasticky, but I don't feel like that's the best description. It's like something in that vein where it's like product-y even, which I know is like so broad and could mean a million things, but maybe that helps a little more to explain what I'm thinking. This has a thicker ointment texture for sure. Like compared to all these other ones, you can't deny that when you squeeze it out of the tube, but compared to something like Vaseline or Aquaphor, it's definitely thinner and less occlusive. For me, it's something that feels really nice at first, but it doesn't keep that like cushy feel for very long. This one just has more of a sheeny finish, not really anything special about the way that it looks on my lips, and I would say it's just average. It lasts for an average amount of time. It conditions my lips an average amount. I feel like this is just very meh, and I don't understand the hype with this one. I did buy it when they reformulated it, and I didn't love that either. And then I saw that, oh, they had like relaunched the original because everybody was so mad that they reformulated. So I was super excited to try it out and just so confused when I did, because I just don't think it's anything that special. Sorry. Next is the Dr. Paw Paw Original Balm. This has castor seed oil, sunflower seed oil, olive oil, papaya extract, and aloe. And while it's fragrance-free, it has that very strong oil taste and smell, and it is so off-putting. This has an ointment-like texture that feels thick at first, but does thin out pretty quickly on me, and it's also not completely smooth on my lips. Like there is some graininess. The finish is on the sheenier side, definitely not super shiny or glossy, and this one is just not long lasting for me or very conditioning at all. I actually feel like it leaves my lips feeling a little bit dry, so I'm just not impressed with it, but even if I was, I still wouldn't use it because of the taste. It's that gross to me. All right, last category, we have made it to the thick lip balms. So we have gone from really thin to getting a little bit thicker but still thin to in between. Now we are finally at the balms that I actually feel are thick. First is the Dr. Paw Paw Overnight Lip Mask, so slightly different than the original balm. Same ingredient highlights as the balm, but the one exception is that they have added palmitoid oil tripeptide, and this is also fragrance-free but has has the same off-putting oil taste. The texture of this is just like the original balm, just a little bit thicker, and it also has that same kind of just like sheeny finish, nothing special about the way it looks on my lips. Overall, I would say it's better than the original, but it still doesn't last long enough and it still doesn't leave my lips feeling conditioned. So sure, it's a little better than the balm, but still a pass. Next is the Persona Day Mask Peptide Lip Balm. Ingredient highlights are squalane, jojoba butter, sunflower seed oil, safflower oil, castor seed oil, jojoba oil, hyaluronic acid, lots of fruit extracts, and palm oil tripeptide 1. This has added fragrance and it's an artificial peach flavor, which I tend to hate. I just never like this kind of a smell. I just feel like it never turns out. Yeah, which then no surprise, I don't like the taste either. This has a thicker jelly texture that isn't quite as cushy as my absolute favorites, but still has a nice non-sticky texture. This one has, I would say, like a sheeny to shiny finish, not quite shiny, not glossy looking, but definitely a bit more than some of the flatter options. And I would say it's good, both in terms of lasting power and overall conditioning effect. If your favorite kind of lip balm texture is more of that jelly texture, and you're also someone that really loves that candy peach ring smell, then this might be right up your alley, but I definitely have others that are better, so it's not one that I feel the need to keep. Next is like kind of weird because it's a Lottie London collab with Outer Banks, and typically things like this don't stick around for very long, but I feel like I got this in PR a long time ago and it still exists. So I wonder if they'll eventually transition this from a collab item into something that's permanent in their collection, because they don't have any other untinted lip peptide treatments like this. So that's why I decided to include it in this video in the event that it ends up being something that is permanent. So this is the Lottie London with Outer Banks P4L Lip Peptide Nourishing Lip Treatment. Ingredient highlights are shea butter and palm oil tripeptide 1. This does have fragrance and it is described as a caramel glaze scent. It's definitely subtler than some of the others, but I really love it. Like, smells good, tastes good, all of it. This has a thick gel texture that is stiffer and slightly tacky, but still has like nice slip to it. So it's not super sticky. It's not something that's so stiff that you can't slip inside your lips around. It's kind of like a good mix of all of that. And this creates a really nice cushy coating on my lips. Like, I do really love to apply this because I love the way that it feels. The finish is nice and glossy, but not smoothing or anything like that. And while this has good lasting power, I would say the overall conditioning is just more average, like with longer term use. I definitely felt like I was needing to reapply often, but not because it faded quickly, just because my lips weren't feeling super conditioned. So definitely not a bad option when you consider the price point, because it does smell really good. It feels really good. It's just not as conditioning as I would like it to be. Next is the Peach and Lily Collagen Cushion Peptide Lip Balm. Ingredient highlights, there are so many. Shea butter, squalane, collagen, polyglutamic acid, hyaluronic acid, grapeseed oil, camellia oil, ceramide, silver ear mushroom extract, bisabolol, peptides, 9 of them too, Adansenia digitata seed oil, sea buckthorn oil, tamanu oil, and allantoin. This one is fragrance free and has no smell or taste, but they do have one that has a peach smell. Let me just make sure this isn't the one. No, because it has the white lid. The one that has like the same colored lid as this packaging is the one with the peach smell, and it's gross. This is good though. This has a thicker jelly texture that feels really nice, has good cush, but is slightly tacky. So if that's something that bothers you, just be aware of that. It has a really nice glossy finish, a bit of that plumping effect, looks nice and smooth on my lips, and is good both for lasting power and conditioning, but not amazing. I found myself like wanting to love this more than I actually did. I gave this a ton of tries because I was like, I like how it feels. Like, I feel like I should like this more, but it just didn't quite hold up to me against my absolute favorites. Next is the Bloom Tripeptide Lip Squeeze Super Balm. Ingredient highlights are sunflower seed oil, squalane, coconut oil, avocado oil, jojoba oil, grapeseed oil, mango seed butter, murumuru butter, palm oil tripeptide 1, hyaluronic acid, aloe, and meadow foam seed oil. This has added fragrance and it's described as being vanilla cream scented, flavored, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like that's a good description of the fragrance. This reminds me of a scented candle from Bath & Body Works. Obviously, do they have unscented? Like one of the baked good ones, but I cannot put my finger on what it is. Like I can't remember exactly which one, but it smells like it and it's so good. Love, love, love. This is a thick gel that coats my lips so well. It's cushy, it's buttery, it's not sticky. I absolutely love how this feels. And the finish is definitely on the glossier, more wet looking side. It's not like super smoothing or anything like that, but still has a really nice glossy finish. For me, the lasting power is great. And I would also say it's great in terms of how it makes my lips feel. It's definitely very conditioning, definitely something that leaves my lips feeling nourished, not like I need more quickly. Overall, super impressed with this lip balm. I really don't know much at all about this brand, but I know that I love this lip balm and I'm absolutely keeping it. Next is the e.l.f. Squeeze Me Lip Balm. Ingredient highlights are squalane, shea butter, castor seed oil, hyaluronic acid, urea, collagen, proline, alanine, and serine. There are a few different options for the fragrance. This one is strawberry, and while I like the smell of it at first, there's like a little bit of a soapy aftertaste. So this isn't personally one that I love. They do have a vanilla frosting option, which is my personal favorite, obviously, but I didn't repurchase that one after I used it up for reasons I will explain in a second. I would describe this as a thick gel cream. Like it feels gel-like, but it also feels a bit creamy. It has a nice kind of slick, smooth feel to it, but it's not slippy. I would say it definitely has a stiffer texture than a lot of the others that we've talked about with that like slickness. It's nice. The finish is sheeny to shiny, and lasting power and overall results are both really good. Like this lasts a really good amount of time. It feels really good. It's just like not quite as nourishing as my absolute faves, but it's up there for sure. And the fact that this is so affordable is amazing, except for the fact that these tubes are so tiny. Like I ran through that original vanilla frosting one so quickly, and like I would with this one too if it was something that I liked the taste of and didn't think was soapy. This is really, really teeny, so that bothers me. I wish they would change that, but aside from that, it's a really solid lip balm, and what is it, like $4? Next is the Polite Society Polite Pout Glossy Lip Balm. Ingredient highlights are sunflower seed oil, hazelnut oil, jojoba oil, and soybean oil. This has essential oils, and this one actually comes in a few different shades. This one is called Coconut Cream, so I thought that that meant this would have a coconut cream flavor, but it doesn't. So I think they're just calling it that because it's the clear option and the others are tinted. To me, this tastes like plasticky rose. And it's very overpowering. It's the type of thing that like I just keep tasting while I'm wearing it, keep getting whiffs of. It does not fade. This has a thicker jelly balm texture that feels really nice. It's very smooth, it's almost creamy. And it's interesting because it's obviously something that has a lighter texture than some of the more ointment type lip balms like Dr. Paw Paw or Glossier. But the thicker, cushy texture of this stays on my lips and doesn't thin out like the others. So it ends up feeling thicker. This has a glossy finish, but doesn't really have any sort of smoothing or plumping effect, and has good lasting power, but just isn't as conditioning for me as I would like. It's kind of one that feels like it's creating this really nice coating on the lips, but not like sinking in, which I know isn't exactly how lip balms actually work, but that's the best way I can think to describe it. Like that's just kind of how it feels. But even if I did get amazing results with this, I personally wouldn't use it because the taste ruins it. Next is the Sigma Silken Conditioning Lip Mask. Ingredient highlights are jojoba oil and hyaluronic acid. This is fragrance free and doesn't really have a smell or taste. And the texture is a thick, slick gel. Like slick. I love how this feels to apply. I also love the fact that it has a metal tip applicator. I always love that. Like that cold sensation is such a nice touch. It is a little bit tacky. It's not to the point of being super sticky, but definitely not tacky. And this one has a nice glossy finish that I think looks smooth on my lips. Despite loving the way that this feels so much, it's kind of one of those things that seems to just be like, feels good, but doesn't do a ton. So another pass for me. Next is the Topical Slick Salve Mint Lip Balm. Why did I say that like that? Mint Lip Balm, sure. Ingredient highlights are ceramides, palmate oil tripeptide 38, hyaluronic acid, ergothioneine, cholesterol, and panthenol. This has essential oils and is very minty, but if you like mint, this is a nicer mint. It's like a sweet peppermint. This is a very thick gel that to me is like the thicker, stickier version of Nudestix. It does have a tingling, burning sensation for me because of that mint. It stays for a while, but it does eventually fade. I feel like I also get a really similar effect to Nudestix with the finish. It's really juicy, it's wet, it's drippy, it like deletes the look of lines, very plumping. So I love all of that about it, and I would say lasting power is good. However, it just fades to being completely sticky. Like it doesn't kind of like slowly fade away and then eventually you need to add more. the nice balmy gel-like feel goes away and you're left with just sticky lips. So if it wasn't for that and the burny mintiness, I feel like I would really, really love this, but I think it's just like too burny and minty for me to love it and want to keep it. Next is the EOS Intensive Dry Lip Repair Rescue Treatment, which I am honestly surprised I decided to try because those little EOS eggs screwed me over back in the day. I was one of those people that was like religiously using them in high school and got a rashy, bumpy mess all over my lips from it. Standout ingredients are castor oil, petrolatum, shea butter, avocado oil, cocoa butter, olive oil, and sunflower seed oil. This does have added fragrance. This one, does it say what it is? Or did I make that up? I wrote down melon. I think I just decided that. Okay, sure. I see what I'm saying. Like artificial melon, but I like it. It's not too much, not too like, I don't know. It's not like artificial peach ring. Nothing like that. This is like the softer, creamier version of an ointment. So when I think of an ointment, again, I'm thinking of things like Vaseline, the CeraVe Healing Ointment, Aquaphor. This gives me similar vibes, but is softer and creamier. And this is definitely one that I would consider to be more occlusive and thicker than so many of the others, but it's not too thick or heavy. So I really love how it felt at first, but it quickly started to feel really tight on my lips. And in looking into the ingredients further, I noticed that this one does have beeswax. So maybe it's that, maybe it's something else, but I was definitely having some sort of allergic reaction to something in this. Like, what the heck? I've got like lip product allergy issues apparently. There's nothing really special about the way this looks. Like the finish I would say is just slightly sheeny, definitely doesn't do anything to smooth lines, but I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter since I can't use it anyway. If it were not for the allergic reaction, I feel like I would still keep it though if I was just like around my house, wasn't really like needing a really glossy finish for anything, but just wanted something to throw on that felt really thick and conditioning and creamy and amazing. I feel like I would keep it for that because it does feel so good at first. So if you don't have a beeswax allergy, maybe you'll love this, but I can't keep for obvious reasons. Well, and I guess I shouldn't say if you don't have a beeswax allergy, because again, who knows what did that? Well, beeswax is the second ingredient. I think it's that. I rest my case. Next is the Saem. I don't know, Saem Honey Oatmeal Lip Treatment. This has petrolatum, honey, oat butter, and shea butter. It does have added fragrance, and I would say it's like a nice, sweet, kind of brown, sugary smell almost. Definitely some honey in there, but it's not just like straight up honey. I don't know that I would love that. It smells really good. This has a thicker, stiffer ointment texture. And once I've applied it and like rubbed my lips together, it feels super soft, but again, just like doesn't feel like it quite sinks in, doesn't feel like it's quite as conditioning as I want it to be. It has a sheeny finish, nothing really magical going on with the way that it looks on my lips. And I would say like average to good lasting power, but actually ends up making my lips feel drier. Like it kind of just sits on top and doesn't moisturize or condition or any of those things and then fades. So even though I really love the way that this smells and feels, because it doesn't condition as well as my favorites, I definitely won't keep it. Next up is the Lanolips 101 Ointment Multi-Purpose Super Balm, which just contains lanolin and lanolin oil. There's no added fragrance, no smell or taste, and this is definitely the thickest at first, like thick. But that does melt down so that it doesn't end up feeling the thickest out of everything in this video. Obviously still is a very thick balm, like it's thick, but there are a couple that actually end up feeling even thicker than that. I think that this feels so soft and so nourishing, but I also have a lanolin allergy, and that's actually something I figured out because Aquaphor has lanolin in it. Not their lip balm actually. This does not, but like regular Aquaphor does. And I got perioral dermatitis all over my face from that, which had never happened to me before and has never happened again. So this is one that I just wanted to like put on, show you guys, include, because I knew people would be like, why didn't you include that? That's the best one. And like, it is really good. Like I said, so soft, so nourishing. I love the initial feel and has a nice shiny finish as well. But for obvious reasons, I couldn't test out lasting power or anything like that because I did not want to get perioral dermatitis. Oh my gosh, we are nearing the end, my friends. I think we have 7 left. I don't want to jinx it because I, again, usually count wrong. Don't trust me. Next is the Clinique Moisture Surge Lip Hydro Plump Treatment, which contains petrolatum, ceramide NG, muru butter, shea butter, cholesterol, and lecithin. This is fragrance-free, doesn't have a smell or taste, and has such a nice thick texture. This is a thick, soft, balm slash ointment that isn't too slippery and isn't too stiff, is kind of just like a nice in between of those things once it like melts down and settles on my lips. Oh my God, I love how this feels. It's so nourishing. It has a sheeny to shiny finish. It's definitely not something that I'm reaching for because of how it makes my lips look. I'm reaching for it because it's just so good across the board. Lasts a super long time, makes my lips feel amazing. The texture itself is amazing. I am just such a huge fan of this. So if you are somebody that really loves the feeling of a thicker, occlusive ointment, but you want just like a softer version of that, something that feels a little bit more like a lip balm and not something like Vaseline in a tub, then I would definitely recommend this one. I think it's so good and I'm 100% keeping. Next is the A2 Ginger Sugar Essential Lip Balm. Standout ingredients are shea butter, coconut seed butter, and lecithin. This has fragrance and essential oils, and I think ginger sugar is the perfect description for it. It smells like ginger sugar. I like it, but I know that's not everyone's kind of thing. This has a thick gel texture that is very slick. It's definitely not something that's like slippery or melty. It's stiffer and it is slightly tacky as well. I really love the feel of this, like a thick gel, sign me up. But if you prefer something that's more like jelly or creamy or ointmenty, then this obviously wouldn't be for you. While this isn't super smoothing, it has a really nice glossy finish and I think is really, really good. It lasts a long time, feels great on my lips. It's a really impressive balm. It's just not something I'm as obsessed with as my favorites, honestly, because of the smell. Like, yes, I definitely like it, like I said, but I don't always want to be applying a lip balm that smells like this. Like, it's just such a particular kind of smell. And you guys know, like vanilla and cake and things like that are so much more up my alley. So I will definitely keep this and use it up, but after that, I don't know that I would repurchase, really just because of that, because everything else about it I think is great. Next is the OLEHENRIKSEN Pout Preserve Peptide Lip Treatment. Standout ingredients are cloudberry seed oil, cocoa butter, peptides, oh my gosh, what is that? Gabanesis kernel butter, okay, linoleic acid, linolenic acid, oleic acid, and sunflower seed oil. This does have fragrance and essential oils and has a very strong fragrance, but is one that I love when I'm in the mood for it. It smells like orange dreamsicle. So good. And the texture of this, it's not for the faint of heart. If you don't like a thick texture, this is not going to be for you. But if you do, oh my gosh, it is thick, 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 thick. It's buttery, it's creamy, it's melty, yet also stiff at the same time. Like, I don't know, somehow is both of those. Like, just such an amazing, unique lip treatment. I am obsessed with how this feels. It is so moisturizing, so nourishing, so everything. The finish, I would say, is shiny, not super smoothing or anything like that, but that's fine by me because, oh my God, the way this feels, and it lasts so long, like, everything's amazing. Like I said, I'm not always in the mood for orange dreamsicles, so this isn't something that I'm reaching for every single day. Because of that, if they came out with like some more gourmandy fragrances, I'd be in trouble. Or even a fragrance-free version like that, I would be obsessed with too. But 100% keeping, because when I do want some orange dreamsicle, this doesn't disappoint. Next is the Naturium Phyto Glow Lip Balm, which, if you know me, you know that I love in the tinted versions. This one is obviously the clear or transparent option. This has shea butter, squalane, and cupachu butter in it. It does have fragrance, but I do not smell or taste anything. So I'm wondering if it's just to like mask the smell of other things. This is so thick. Obviously, we're at the end of the video in the thick category, and is one that is kind of difficult to squeeze out of the tube, but not like, what was it? That Sacheu sweet balm where I like literally couldn't get it out. Not like that. And I would describe this as being a stiff, occlusive gel balm. I am personally obsessed with that kind of feel. I think it feels so amazing, but if you're not into something, you guys, I need to wrap this up. If you're not into something that is like thicker and stiffer and not as like slippy and melty, then this just wouldn't be for you. This one has that really nice, like kind of glossy, wet, smooth, plump look. So I love that about it. This has great lasting power, great in terms of the conditioning effect. It is just great. I absolutely love this stuff, both tinted, untinted. So if you couldn't already tell, I'm absolutely keeping this. 3 more to go. Oh my gosh. Third to last is the Dionis Goat Butter Lip Mask. Standout ingredients are shea butter, olive oil, goat milk, raspberry oil, moringa oil, peckweed oil, and grapeseed oil. This does have fragrance, and so I feel like I would describe this as being like a caramel vanilla, which is weird because the first time that I bought this, like I remember being like, yeah, it doesn't really have much of a smell or taste. This one very much does. Like, it's strong, but like not too overpowering. It's really yummy. So I have no idea like what that was about with the first one I got. I'm like, Did my nose not work? Did I get a dud? That doesn't really seem possible. I don't know. But this one does smell delicious. And this is a super thick, buttery and creamy balm. It creates the perfect occlusive layer on my lips, just like, oh, so thick. I love that about it. Something that I did notice with this is that over time it actually has gotten grainy, but when I had this before and like just went through a full, you know, what do I call this? It's not a tub. Tube. When I went through a full tube of this by itself in like a normal amount of time, when I wasn't also testing out 53 other lip balms, it didn't go grainy in that amount of time. So I honestly just think it's because of how long it's been sitting here. As you can imagine, this showdown has been months in the making. And this one has like a slightly shiny finish, not super shiny, but more than sheeny, I would say. Lasting power and overall results with this are both really, really good. This is another one for me where I'm like, it creates that really nice layer on top, but I want it to feel like it's sinking in a little bit more. But that's just me being super nitpicky because again, I do think this one is really, really great. So I will definitely keep this to use it up, but when I'm done with it, I don't think I'll repurchase because there's just a couple others that I like even better. Okay, we're actually gonna switch. So this one's the thickest in my opinion, but not my favorite. And the other one that is second to thickest, sure, is my favorite and like the winner of this whole thing. So we're just gonna switch to like keep it fun and fresh. This is the, ooh, I don't know how to pronounce this brand. MA:NYO. Manyo? I don't know. Treatment lip serum. Ingredient highlights include panthenol, ceramide NP, honey extract, jojoba seed oil, argan oil, macadamia oil, sunflower seed oil, Adansenia digitata seed oil, mango seed butter, moringa oil, and vanilla fruit oil. This does have essential oils and I think smells like sweet mint. Or is it spearmint? Now that I'm smelling this compared to some of the other minty ones, I'm sure you just saw I didn't love that as much. The other minty ones smell better, like topicals was sweeter. This is reminding me of green gum, and I hated green gum growing up. That was just like a thing. No green gum, which was spearmint. This is a very thick occlusive gel that is also very tacky. For me, it is like a little too far in that direction. The tackiness and also the way that it fades. It is one of those that just fades to feeling sticky where like the treatment's gone. You're not getting any of the gel-like feel or anything like that. It's just stick. The finish is super glossy. It's wet. It's smoothing. I really love that about it. And it has good lasting power. But because of the fact that it's so sticky for me, I'm just like, it's just not something I want to keep when my favorites don't do that. Speaking of my favorites, you guys, I have been filming for 4 hours. This is going to be a long video. Sorry, Sister Emily. My favorite lip balm of all time officially is the EADEM Le Chochu. What? Chow chow? Cho. We're gonna say chochu, and I feel like that's not what it is at all. Lip softening balm. Standout ingredients include shea butter, acai butter, manketti oil, never heard of that, moringa oil, lactic acid, pomade oil hexapeptide 12, pomade oil tripeptide 1, and that's it. This does have fragrance and is supposed to be a butter mochi fragrance. I'm like, sure. I don't know what that would smell like, but like I'm getting the butter, I'm getting kind of the like, you know, I know what mochi smells like. Ugh, divine, obsessed. It's like a thick ointmenty gel. It feels insanely soft on my lips, like insane. It's so buttery, it's so cushy, it's so good. The finish is definitely glossy and I would say is like partially smooth. It's not to the level of being something like Nudestix, which again is like line deleting so smooth, but I still do think it has a little bit of that effect and I love that glossy look. Lasting power is amazing. Overall results are amazing. I cannot say enough good things about this. I am obsessed with this. And I recommended this in my Sephora VIB video and I was like, I think I like it better than Laneige, but I felt like I couldn't officially say that without like fully just signing off on all of my thoughts on this showdown. I needed to like compile all my notes, really sit with this. And once I did, I was like, okay, this 100% wins, like no comparison. So in testing, 54, Emily will correct me if I'm wrong, of the most highly rated, best-selling lip balms in a tube, squeezy tube that I could find. Oh wait, and I forgot to say, you guys, metal tip applicator. It's perfect. I have obviously found a lot of lip balms that I hate, that don't make the cut, that are good but not amazing, and a small select handful that I love, love, love. So let me quickly just like list off the ones that I do love enough to actually keep in my collection that I would recommend, that I think are amazing. Not that there aren't other great options in this video. Like, again, I know that what I love is not what everybody else loves, but this is what I love. Okay, so Indeed, Laneige, Bloom, Clinique, A2 Ginger Sugar, which again, I'll finish up, probably won't repurchase, but literally only because I don't always want ginger sugar. So if that's something that you would like, so amazing. Dionis Lip Mask Goat Butter, really good. I would say this I would consider to be like one step below my ultimate faves, but we're gonna keep and use up. Naturium, OLEHENRIKSEN, and the winner, the EADEM Lip Soft, what are you called? Oh yeah, Lechochu Lip Softening Balm. God, this is good. Now that I probably look insane, I'm like, there's no way I still look good. And I can't feel my throat, and I never want to look at a lip balm ever again. We are going to wrap up this gigantic lip balm showdown. Now when people are like, oh, but you haven't tried this. Oh, you have to try this. Oh, this one's better. I'm like, I've got my favorites. I've got my top picks. I am confident in my choices. These are the best lip balms. They're the best I've ever tried. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Are there lip balms that you want to try after watching this that you had always considered trying but maybe aren't going to anymore? Did you have different experiences, similar experiences, any other kind of experiences? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. I will make sure to list and link all of these lip balms in order of mention in my description box below. I'm guessing they're not all gonna fit, so if that is the case, I will pin a comment with the rest that didn't fit. Thank you so much for watching this video. Oh my god, because I know this is gonna be potentially the longest video on my channel, or up there for sure. So thank you. I love the freaking heck out of you guys. Make sure to stay tuned for my next one because it'll be up at some point. We might have to like take a delay because of how huge this one is, but it'll be up shortly. So stay tuned for that. And until then, I hope you have a great few days.